Today we are going to build some foldable job site sawhorses. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. So here's what you're going to need. You're going to need 4 spreader hinges. These are not absolutely necessary, and we'll talk about that when we get into it, a different way that it can be done. You're going to need 8 2.5-inch hinges, just standard door hinges. We'll get into that a little bit further and what we're doing with them. You're going to need one 8-foot 2x4. You're going to need one 8-foot 1x4, and you're going to need one 4x8 sheet of 1/2-inch plywood. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the 4 sawhorse pieces out of the plywood. Mark it off at 4 foot, and we're going to get 2 out of one side and 2 out of the other. So it's a little difficult to see the lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut out 2 of the Sawhorse frames, and then we'll do the other 2 on camera when I lay them on there and you can better see what's going on. I have the first 2 cut out. I'll show you what I got going on here. So everything is 6 inches. So it's 6 inches across here and 6 inches across here, here, and there. So basically when you lay it out, maybe just scribe a line on it so you don't get confused. But this is the body of the sawhorse. So, and yes, one leg is currently longer than the other leg. That is no big deal. We'll trim them down. I think that I want to not only have these for job site sawhorses, but also for a portable outfeed table for my table saw. Which I currently do not have because all the sawhorses are too tall that I do have, and I don't have a single set of sawhorses at my house right now. Brett has a set, and I have another set that's up north. So now what else I'm going to do is this is the remaining piece from the center. So I'm going to cut that into 6-inch strips, 4 6-inch strips. It's exactly 24 inches left, and I am going to use them to fortify the legs because I want these things to be pretty stout. I want to be able to put 6x6s on them. So I'm going to get those strips cut out. I'm going to glue them and screw them on to the outsides of each one of these leg frameworks. So everything is 6 inches, and it's just offset so that you can get exactly what you need out of it. I hope you can see that well enough. I have one leg brace screwed on, glued and screwed on, and now we'll go ahead and we'll do this one so that you can kind of see what's going on. I drew a line right down here at the end so that I know where to put my glue. I'm not getting super fancy with the glue. I'm surprised I have any. I'm not a big wood glue user. I do a little woodworking once in a while, but not a bunch. So there we go. That's what it's getting for glue. Not much. This is getting on just like this, flush with the top. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'd rather have the outside edge a little more flush for the spreader hinges. That are going to be attached to it. So, and this will be the outside. I'm not drilling any pilot holes. So nothing super fancy. These are 3/4 inch screws that I'm using. So that's that. Not too many screws, a little bit of glue. It strengthens it a bunch. And I'll get the rest of these. I'll get the other two glued on. And then we'll cut the next set out. So now I'll take my Sawzall and cut everything loose. There's one. Trim up down there, we're cutting the legs anyway. There's two, and then this remaining piece is 24 inches, and we're going to go ahead and cut that into 4 6-inch pieces. You have to excuse my shop, it's a little bit of a mess, trying to get some things cleaned up. And this is one of the things I need to get out of my way. There's my 4 6-inch strips. And there we have it. So I'll get these glued on and then we'll finish up the construction. I have all the stiffeners screwed on and glued on to the Sawhorse frames. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this 1x3. I think I said in the beginning a 1x4, but it's actually a 1x3. It doesn't matter either way. But I'm going to cut this into 16 5 3/4 inch pieces. All 16 are cut, and I'm just going to go ahead and sandpaper the edges, clean this little bit of stuff off, make sure that I don't get any splinters. I'm ready to cut the 2x4, and I'm going to cut it the same length as the tops of the frames, which is 42 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 of them. That's all I'll need. The 2x4s are cut. Now what I'm going to do is mark out the Sawhorse frames for the 1x's, where they're going to screw on, or glue and screw on, and the purpose of that is the hinges will mount to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark in 6 inches. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to mark in 6 inches on the other side. Once again, we don't have to be perfect. Wipe away any sawdust that might be there. Get us some glue on here. Nothing too fancy. I'm not going to spread it out. I'm not worried about it. They'll hold just fine. Put one clamp on them. Then I'm just going to put 2 1 1/4 inch construction screws, one on each corner here with each end. the same thing here, and then I'll do the same thing to the other 3 frames. All of my blocks are glued on, so what I'm going to do now is mark them and install my hinges. So I'm going to mark them at just 2 3/4 as the center. Doesn't have to be perfect center. Then I'm going to go ahead and put my hinge on. And I want to make sure that the offset is just slightly above, or this curved part of the hinge is slightly above the wood. Line up my center hole with that. I'm going to go ahead and just make 3 dots here. So that I can start my screws before I have my hands full trying to hold the hinge on there. And that will make it much easier to put the hinge on. So I'll go ahead and put these remaining hinges on, and then we will get the horses put together. I have all the hinges installed onto the Sawhorse frames. Now I'm ready to install the 2x4 that I cut the same length as the frames of the Sawhorses. So what I've done is I've laid them out on the floor. And I stood up the 2x4 in between them. See if I can get you a good view here, just like this. Now what we're going to do is stand these hinges up against the 2x4 and screw them in. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to screw 1 screw in each hinge on all 4 hinges, and then I'll come back through and get these. All the hinges are attached, so what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and stand this side up and lay it down on this side like so, and there we go. We have our framework. And this is the final result. So I'm going to go ahead and get those other frames screwed together, and then we'll get our spreader hinges installed. Okay, I'm ready to install the spreader hinge. Now the Sawhorses, I still have to cut the legs to the correct height. The Sawhorses are way too tall as they are. So there's a left and a right hand spreader hinge, and you want to make sure that it folds this direction when you close up the Sawhorse. So I'm believing that I need to be about a foot down from the top, and I'm going to glue these blocks in and screw them in to mount the spreader hinge too. So I'm going to mark down 1 foot and mark down 1 foot, clamp it in place, same thing here. see if we've got the right distance. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these and screw these into place, and then we'll get this installed. Now the other option that you can use, you do not have to use these spreader hinges. You can put a small eye screw in here and a hook over here, and use a small chain like you would use for hanging a fluorescent light. You could use a piece of strap steel with a little notch cut in it and a screw here, and just kind of latch it on and then let it hang when you unhook it. So you could even use like an old nylon strap or something if you wanted to. You do not have to use these. Okay, I'm ready to install the spreader hinge, but it has this little offset in it right here, and I am going to take a hammer and eliminate it. Just straighten that out so that it doesn't bind up. Something just like that. So now what I want to do is position this here and here, and I want to make sure that it's straight. So I'm going to measure down, mark one side, and then I'll measure down to the center of that and mark the other side. So I'm going to call that pretty good right there. Oh, 15 1/4. So I'm just going to measure down and mark it 15 1/4 right here. There we have it. So I will put this screw right there. Then I'll mark for those 2 screws. Off of the center mark. Right there and right there. So I'm going to do the same thing and just run my screws in and get my pilot hole. I'm just going to do one over here. And of course it's in a knot. I'm going to have to get a drill bit and drill it. I got a hole in the stubborn area where the knot was, so we'll go ahead and get a screw in there. Put our second screw in. And there we have it. I'm going to go ahead and get the other side done, and then I'll get both of these done, and then we'll come back and we will determine the length of the legs. because I want to hit this really close, I'm going to measure the sawhorse closed, and then I'm going to measure it open to see how much it drops. And I'm sure that's going to change a little bit because of the spread of the legs when it drops down. So currently it is 43 5/8 of an inch. Just going to write that on here. It'll probably have a million measurements wrote on it in the next several years. Now the other thing with this horse, because I put 2 hinges up here to put the 2x4 in, you could eliminate the 2x4 and just hinge the plywood together, but you'll have the top of the hinge sticking up, which, you know, your saw blade will go right through it, do a little damage to it, but the hinge will be ruined. So that's why I like to have this on here. And it doesn't matter that it has the ability to do this, it's just as strong. These will be extremely durable. So we were at 43 5/8, and we are now at 42. So we'll figure out the difference and we'll cut these legs off. So what I'm going to do is take the 34 1/2 that I want the sawhorses to be, and I'm going to add the 1 5/8 to it. But I'm not going to worry about the 1/8. I'm just going to cut the legs at 36 inches and stand it back up and see what we got. Now if these were not being used like a doubling for an outfeed table or something like that, you could cut the legs at whatever height that you would like to work. Being I'm a taller guy, this height right here wouldn't break my heart easy on the back. Maybe a little bit lower, but really close. But because I want them to double up as an outfeed table, I'm going to cut the legs at 36. That's going to do it for today. I still got to trim the legs off just a little bit more. My measurements were a little goofed up, but that's alright. They're plenty strong, they're durable, feet are off the ground. I'm going to put these things through some workouts. We're going to test them. So I'd like to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of these 2 videos. They're going to pop up right here. And I'd like to give a special thanks to Tony Iaconelli and Brett Wimmer, because none of this could happen without them.